The sun blazed overhead as the once vibrant fields stretched endlessly toward the horizon, now dry and barren. The earth, cracked and weary, whispered stories of better days when green grass swayed in the breeze and life thrived in abundance. The villagers who lived nearby had all but lost hope. Their wells were dry, their crops failed, and their hearts heavy. Among them lived an old farmer named Kweku. His weathered face bore the lines of countless seasons, some bountiful, others harsh. Yet, what set him apart was the twinkle of hope that never left his eyes. He was known to hum a tune as he walked through the desolate fields, his steps light as though he could see what others could not. One day, the villagers gathered near the largest crack in the earth, debating whether to leave the land they had called home for generations. As they argued, Kweku quietly knelt and placed his hand on the dry soil. His voice broke through the chaos. "Why abandon this place when it has provided for us for so long?" he asked, his tone steady yet filled with conviction. "There's nothing left, Kweku," said Alma, a young woman whose once bright eyes now reflected the same despair as the land. "We have given our blood, sweat, and tears, but the land has given up on us." Kweku looked up at her and smiled gently. "The land has not given up. It is merely waiting. Even the greenest grass begins with a single drop of water. Have patience and trust." The villagers scoffed at Kweku's optimism. They accused him of being out of touch, of clinging to a dream that could never return. But Alma, moved by his unwavering faith, lingered. "What do you mean by a drop of water can fill a bucket?" she asked. Kweku stood, brushing the soil from his hands. "It means every small effort matters. One drop becomes two, then three, and before you know it, the bucket overflows. Just as a single blade of green grass signals the return of the meadow, so too does one small act of faith restore life to the barren." Alma pondered his words long after the others had gone. The next morning, she returned to the field, finding Kweku digging a hole with a rusted shovel. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Planting hope," he said with a grin. In his hand was a tiny seed. Over the weeks, Alma joined Kweku daily, hauling water from a distant stream to nourish the single seed. The task was grueling, and some days it felt pointless. But Kweku's words echoed in her heart. One drop can fill a bucket. As they worked, Kweku told Alma stories of how the fields had first turned green many years ago. "It started with a flood," he said, pausing to wipe his brow. "But the flood began with rain, just drops falling from the sky." The simplicity of the message struck Alma. She began to see each drop of water she carried not as an exhausting task, but as a promise. It became a meditation of sorts, a way to believe in something bigger than herself. Months passed, and the seed sprouted into a tiny blade of grass. It was small, unremarkable to most, but to Alma and Kweku, it was a miracle. They cared for it tirelessly, and soon another blade appeared beside it, then another. The villagers began to take notice. "This is foolishness," some said. "What difference can a patch of green make in a desert?" But others, inspired by Alma's determination, began to help. They brought buckets of water, worked the soil, and planted seeds of their own. The once empty fields now held the promise of life. One day, the sky, which had been mercilessly clear for years, began to darken. Clouds rolled in, their edges heavy with rain. Alma stood in the middle of the growing meadow, her face turned upward, as the first drop fell on her cheek. Then another, and another. Soon, the rain poured, soaking the earth and washing away years of despair. The villagers danced and laughed, their joy mingling with the rhythm of the rain. By the time the storm passed, the fields were vibrant with green grass stretching as far as the eye could see. Kweku, now too frail to join the celebration, sat on his porch, watching the transformation with a satisfied smile. Alma knelt beside him, her eyes shining with gratitude. "You were right," she said. "It all started with a single drop." Kweku took her hand in his. "Never forget that, Alma. Whether it's water, hope, or love, it always begins small." The green grass you see today is a testament to what can grow when we choose to believe in the power of a single drop. The story of the green grass spread far and wide, inspiring others to find hope in the smallest of beginnings. Villages once desolate and forgotten began to bloom again, not because of grand gestures, but because of the collective effort of individuals who believed in the promise of change. Amma carried Kweku's lesson with her for the rest of her life, teaching her children and grandchildren that no matter how barren the land or life may seem, the green grass is always possible for those who start with a single drop.